What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Points Per Podcast. Thank you for joining us as always. My name's Eric. That's my co-host Will. And today we have a banger of a video for you guys. I think this is one that we've been really excited and waiting to do for quite some time. We're finally going to be diving into the 2027 Dynasty rookie class. Way too early kind of rookie preview for you guys here. And if you're new to the channel, I just kind of want to point out that we do have a bunch of 2026 videos available and up on our channel. We have a mock draft video. We have two positional breakdowns for running back and wide receiver. So if you guys are interested in that type of content, I would highly suggest you subscribe to the channel and go check those out after you watch this one. But the reason that I bring those up is because inevitably in all three of those videos, we alluded to what's coming down the pipeline in this 2027 class. It's impossible not to talk about them. It's impossible not to make comparisons. And so I'm really, really excited to finally dig into it and focus specifically on this group. But before we do, Will, how you doing, man?
I'm feeling great, man. Like you said, this one's going to be a fun video. We always title things like this way too early, but honestly, with this class, it feels like it's not early enough to start making preparations for it because
Yeah,
that's kind of how big of a class this feels like it's going to be. So I'm really excited for this one.
absolutely. I feel like we got to start with the wide receiver group. Similar to the 2026 class, it seems to be the strength of this 2027 class. And, you guys will have seen the thumbnail. We can't start anywhere else but with maybe potentially the best wide receiver prospect of all time in Jeremiah Smith. So I'm going to pull up the PFF grades here, but Will, I'm going to let you lead us off. Tell
Absolutely.
us why he's so good.
Absolutely, bro. Like Eric was alluding to, Jeremiah Smith is quite possibly one of the best, if not the best wide receiver prospect we've seen in a while since like the likes of Megatron, Julio Jones. Like this is the type of player that we're talking about. Like when we talk about blue chip guys like Jamar Chase that we're looking forward to, Jeremiah Smith is up with the likes of those guys. He's just as good as the best of them. And honestly, he's going to be one of those guys that makes a difference immediately stepping into the league. When you think about his game, you try to nitpick and you try to pull out any glaring weaknesses in it, you really can't find any. He's one of those guys, he's solid in just about every aspect of the game. And honestly, he's going to be one of those guys that commands volume at the next level because he commands it now in what has been one of the most talented wide receiver groups in Ohio State that we've seen in recent memory. He's been a guy who's been head and shoulders above everyone else.
Yeah, I really don't think you can be like too complimentary of Jeremiah Smith. He's just that good. He's unbelievable. I put some notes together for him immediately following the 2025 draft, NFL draft. And so this is just after his freshman season, not taking into account what he's done so far in his sophomore year. But I kind of want to just read through some of the stuff that I wrote because I think what inspired me to put this together was like trying to figure out whether he was truly the best wide receiver prospect we had ever seen to this point, whether he was the best freshman receiver we had ever seen. And so this is kind of what I went through. Coming into his freshman year, just in terms of measurables, 6'3", 215. I put in here, he's built like a grown man coming out of high school. Like he doesn't have to add weight or fill out his frame like most freshman phenoms we see. He's ready made for the NFL right now. And as you can see by the graphic we have up on the screen, he's already filled out even a little bit more. He's up to 6'3", 223. Like AJ Brown size, but a little bit taller. It's ridiculous the type of physical freak that he is. In terms of athletic measurables, I looked up his GPS tracking data from that freshman season. His top speed was 21.7 miles per hour. That number would have been the 11th fastest top speed among all NFL players during the 2024 season. So he's got wheels. His unofficial high school 40 time is approximately kind of estimated to be at about 4.5. If you guys aren't familiar with how those numbers typically play out, these guys improve on those numbers drastically from high school into college, and especially like pre-combine or pro day when they actually train and get the technique down for the 40. So I expect that number to be in the 4.4s for sure. And he also won the Florida State championships in the 110 and 400 meter hurdles in high school. So he's got the track background. In terms of recruitment, he was the number one recruit in the entire country in 2024. 24/7 Sports gave him a 101 player rating. He was one of only 3 players ever to be given a score over 100. So just like the pedigree is beyond comparison. And then in terms of statistics from that true freshman season, 16 games, 105 targets, 76 receptions, 1,315 yards, 15 touchdowns, and he added a touchdown on the ground as well. Will, you brought it up, talking about the competition that he's had in that wide receiver room. He did that alongside a senior, Emeka Ibuka, a guy who set the record for most receptions in Ohio State history, just got drafted in the top 20 in the NFL draft. And we've seen what he's done in the NFL, really taken it by storm and shown us that he's even more talented than we really thought he was. And Jeremiah Smith, as a true freshman 18-year-old, came to Ohio State and said, sorry, dude, I'm just better than you. Like, just outproduced him straight up. Carnell Tate was there. That's a guy that we've been talking about. Wills, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have him as your wide receiver 1 in the 2026 class.
Yes.
Currently outproducing him still, and put him like fully on the back burner in that freshman season. Another thing that doesn't get brought up enough, they had Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins on that Ohio State national championship winning team. And they were like, yeah, Jeremiah Smith is still our best player. We got to get him the ball. Like, it's incredible what he was able to do with this team. The analytics back it up. Breakout age of 18 years old, yards per route run of 3.15 in that freshman season. He's improved it in his sophomore year. An absurdly elite 0.128 first downs per route run that freshman year. Again, he's improved that. I looked that up. His average first downs per route run, and compared that to everybody in my wide receiver model database dating back to 2019. If you look at the career average for first downs per route run, the only player since 2019 to ever have a first downs per route run higher than him was JSN at 0.144 compared to Jeremiah Smith's 0.140. Like, it's otherworldly, bro.
And we see what JSN is doing this season too. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things, like you said, like for him to be playing alongside this talent, like these names you rattled off aren't just guys who happen to slip into the NFL in like the 5th or 6th round. These are second round, first round talents that
Yeah.
he literally walked in as an 18-year-old. And like you said, he took over. They said, you guys are going to take a back seat to me immediately. That's if you excited isn't even really the word I would be if I was potentially going to get Jeremiah Smith on my dynasty team, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like if you're not tanking as hard as you possibly can in 2027, you're doing it wrong. Like this, I'm tearing down competitive teams for this guy. Like it's unreal what he's going to be in the NFL. I have so much more on this note written down, but I should probably hold back. We don't need to go into even more detail. In terms of comps, just because I think this is fun. You mentioned Julio Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely think he's Julio Jones-esque. I think he's like a bigger Jamar Chase, maybe not quite as dynamic after the catch as Jamar is, but in a similar mold. And I already mentioned kind of the AJ Brown comp. He's like a taller AJ Brown, but probably an even more nuanced route runner. Like he's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's absolutely incredible. And you plug him into any NFL team, and he's going to be an absolute superstar at the next level. I'm
100%.
absolutely confident in that. You could have me throwing the ball to him. He's going to be a boss.
Damn right. All right. So we needed to just take that time to praise and talk about how good Jeremiah Smith truly is. But let's get into the rest of this wide receiver group. Who do you have next up on the list?
So next up is my wide receiver 2. I've actually got Cam Coleman in this slot just because of, performance so far this season. But to round off the 2024 campaign, he was really starting to put things together, and he really has taken that momentum into this season. He's just performed extremely well at this level too. And honestly, in terms of build, very similar to Jeremiah Smith in terms of being that prototypical X receiver, 6'3", 201. He's huge. He kind of reminds me of like a bigger George Pickens and sort of the way he plays.
Mind meld. George Pickens was my comp for him, not just physically, but like they move similarly too.
Yeah, like he's not the best separator, but in terms of like attacking and just getting to the ball at the catch point and just having that insane catch radius, I think Cam Coleman's going to be up there with the best of them too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love that comp. That's exactly where I was going to go. I think he's a really smooth athlete for his size. You mentioned the catch radius. It's unreal. I think he's got great energy and physicality. He doesn't quite stand up to some of the other top guys in this class in terms of like production and analytical profile. But that's mostly due to his situation, in my opinion. Like Jackson Arnold has been his quarterback so far this season, and he's played pretty terribly. I think he'd be a household name with Jeremiah Smith and the guy that we're probably going to talk about next, if he had better quarterback play. A note that I thought was interesting recently, they actually benched Jackson Arnold in favor of Ashton Daniels for like a week or two these past couple weeks. And Daniels balled out. He looked great, but now they're going to be benching him to preserve his redshirt year. So hopefully for Cam Coleman's sake, if he doesn't just straight up transfer, he'll have Ashton Daniels there for him next year to hopefully make him more productive.
Absolutely. But even just in terms of what he's been able to show, I think it translates well to the next level. It is a little bit scary because he isn't the best separator in the world if he will still continue. But I think with just the way he does kind of outmuscle people and just sort of his play style, I think he will be fine.
Yeah, I might be a little bit less worried than you are. Like, obviously, you have him as your wide receiver too, so you're
Yeah,
not
I'm
that
not
worried.
like
But
it's definitely not anything I'm knocking him for. It's just
yeah,
something that there's a guy we'll talk about later that I'm a little bit more worried about for sure. But
sure.
yeah,
But no, I like it. It was kind of a toss up for me whether Cam Coleman would be my wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. But regardless, I think there is probably a top tier of 3. And so he's firmly within that, regardless of where you want to put him. But let's move on to the next one. The guy that I want to bring up is going to be Ryan Williams out of Alabama. There he is. Still just 18 years old, dude. I
yeah,
think he like
dude.
skipped a grade or something. He was a true freshman, 17-year-old, lighting it up at Alabama last year. He's been phenomenal. This year has been a little bit marred by injury and also kind of some drop issues. Those are really the only knocks that I think I have for him. You could maybe also knock him for the slight frame. He's slightly undersized, but I think that he'll put on a couple pounds if he gets into the 180s at 6 foot. That's perfect. I have a couple comps for him. Do you want the more realistic one first, or do you want the kind of funny one first?
Let's go realistic, then let's hear the funny one.
All right. So I think he's somewhere kind of in between, or like a combo of these two guys with like Garrett Wilson and Jamison Williams. What do you think about that?
I like that actually, because I like the Jamison Williams because he is a burner. He's really fast, really quick, able
Yeah.
to turn it on, but then pretty good route technician and good in the open field too, like Garrett Wilson. I like that.
Yeah, he's got incredible body control, like otherworldly elusiveness and improvisational skills when he's in open space. He's just like a walking big play, an explosive play waiting to happen. So the funny one that kind of ties into that, the way that I just described it, I think he's like the Allen Iverson of football. Like the things that make AI as fun and as good as he was at basketball, like somehow turn that into a football player, and it's like what Ryan Williams looks like to me.
It's hilarious because I had an NBA comp for him too, and
Did you really?
it was Jason Tatum, just because he's only 19 is what everyone's gonna be saying when he's in the league lighting it
That's
up,
true.
you know. But
I
I
love
just
that.
remember that meme from back then. But I absolutely love that comparison too, and yeah, just to kind of what's up? Piggyback off some of the stuff that you said. My notes here, I had the exact same notes. Just super young, big playmaker, awesome in the open field, and has elite body control. Just we've all seen the highlight. We've all seen the spin move that he made before he even fully landed on the ground.
Yeah,
Ryan Williams is a little bit different when it comes to that. Rack demon and injuries have hampered this season, but he's still super young with time to bounce back, and I think he's going to in a big way.
absolutely. So that will round out kind of our top tier of receivers. Not that some of these next guys are that far off. I also just wanted to mention, I was watching some videos in preparation for this just to kind of get some consensus views on these players, see what the rest of the Dynasty community thought. And I was watching a video by the Dynasty nerds and Jared Wackerly over there, along with most of his co-hosts kind of in agreement. They were saying that if these three guys were eligible for the 2026 class, that they would be the first 3 wide receivers drafted ahead of the likes of Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, and Jordan Tyson. And I think I probably agree. These guys are all true blue chippers.
Absolutely, Jeremiah Smith is probably the wide receiver one for the last 4 years.
Yeah, that
If we're
one,
being
that one's
honest.
without question. Jeremiah
Yeah.
Smith would be the 101 of the past 3 draft classes, bro. It's
Yeah.
crazy. All right. So let's get into kind of the next tier here. Who do you want to bring up next?
The next wide receiver I got listed, I got Bryant Wesco from Clemson. Just someone who was producing also alongside other talent at Clemson, but was also able to elevate himself above said talent. Just unfortunately, he was dealing with sort of that back injury, which was listed as serious, but they're saying that he should make a 100% recovery. And I'm confident that he should also, if the doctors are saying that. So I'm operating under the pretense that next year he's going to be completely fine and playing at the same level he was this year. And if that's the case, we got a first round caliber guy who's a great route runner with athleticism to boot, who some people even consider him to be way higher in this draft class than we consider him to be. Some people have him up there at wide receiver too.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually wanted to shout out Kevin Coleman, a guy uh, over at Debbie Royale. He's a great Twitter follow. Would encourage you guys to go check him out. But he tweeted a hot take back in September that Wesco was his wide receiver 2 of this draft class, and I'm not quite that high on him, but I can see the traits and I can see why people might consider him that highly. So yeah, hopefully he does come back healthy. I agree with all the same things that you said. Impressive route running, great size, ball tracking and body control are top tier. So yeah, he has all the makings of a guy that could kind of jump into that first tier of wide receivers.
Absolutely.
And then we can probably go through the rest of this list relatively quickly since we got to talk about all the other positions as well. I don't even have to have them necessarily up on the screen, but Nick Marsh out of Michigan State is another guy that I had as well. Just kind of like an old school X receiver, big body, red zone threat. Was he on your list too?
Yeah, he's the guy I'm a little worried about, though. He
Yeah,
gives me a lot of shades of Keon Coleman.
I don't disagree with you.
You know,
Yeah.
not a great separator, but he is a contested catch beast. If that's something he can like continue to keep doing at this level, at the next level, but typically we don't really see people do that. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I think there's a little bit wider of a range of outcomes with him where if he does develop a little bit more nuance in his route running, does become a better separator, I think he has all of the traits that could make him a high end wide receiver talent, but you got to have the requisite ability to get open in order for any of that to matter. So I agree with you there. And then some other guys that I have on here: TJ Moore out of Clemson, Ryan Wingo out of Texas, and Mario Craver out of Texas A&M. Anybody that you want to highlight or anybody else that's on your list that I don't have?
No, I think we pretty much wrapped it up right there. But I think there's time for more names to emerge as well. This
For
guys is
sure.
a way too early list. So if you guys are at this point and there's names we're missing out on, let us know in the comments down below what you think if we're missing anyone from this list.
100%. All right, let's transition over to the quarterback position. I'm going to let you start us off. Who do you want to talk about first?
So the first quarterback that I want to talk about is out of Ohio State. I want to talk about Julian Sain. Just to list off some stats so far this season, he's got an 80% completion percentage. He's got 25 touchdowns on the season and only 4 interceptions so far. And to be honest with you, he's not the flashiest quarterback in the world, and he has some great weapons at Ohio State. And it was someone with the Dynasty nerds. I can't remember his name, but he made a great sort of statement towards it. If I remember the name, I'm gonna let Eric know so that way we can throw it up here on the video. But he made a statement like these Ohio State quarterbacks, you kind of have to figure out if they're trailers or if they're tractors. And it seems like he is more of a tractor and he is actually a part of this offense. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm
I know.
referring to?
I think I watched the same video as you. You can keep talking about saying. I'm gonna look it up and figure out what his name was.
Absolutely. But just to add on to that, he's somebody who I feel like is an important part of this offense who helps keep this offense going. He's not someone who's getting pulled along by the likes of the generational talent he has in Jeremiah Smith or, you know, the great talent he has in Carnell Tate. But he is someone who is able to make the right plays at the right time. He makes the right plays when he's supposed to. He's on time. And while some people could say that's boring, I would just call it consistent. And that's something you really do want to see at the next level. But did you find that one right there?
Jagger May.
Yes, Jagger May. Shout out to him because that was a great comparison.
Yeah, and I think he took that from Bucky Brooks and now I'm gonna forget this guy's name too, but the Bucky Brooks and the other guy that do like the NFL draft write ups and stuff like that. So yeah, I like all of that as well. Unfortunately, because I was looking for it, I might repeat some of the stuff that you said, but I think Julian Sain is incredibly accurate, on time, consistent. Stuff that we don't really get to say about a lot of current and recent quarterback prospects. Like we talk about the toolsy guys, we talk about the guys that are flashy, but the fact that he's just able to do the little things right and on time, I think, is really important. He's also currently the highest PFF graded quarterback in the country by a wide margin. And yeah, for him to be this good at this age, it says a lot. And people are going to make the excuses, which I think you did say, that he's surrounded by just such an incredible group of receivers, of talent at Ohio State, that they might make that a knock on him. But you know, I guess it'd be more impressive if he was doing this type of, or having this type of season, with a much worse situation around him. But I don't think it's like a Will Howard type situation from their national championship winning year where he was just being brought along by the talent. I think Julian Sayin is elevating the talent as well. He's on par with the rest of this group. So I'm a big fan of Sayin as well.
I 100% agree.
And then my quarterback 2 is not too far down the list here. Or is he? Yeah, there he is. Dante Moore out of Oregon, a guy that would have been 2026 eligible, but has confirmed that he is going to go back for his senior season. I just think this is pretty similar actually to Julian Sayin in terms of the fact that he's not super flashy. He doesn't offer a lot with his legs, but he's really consistent. He's very accurate. He does all the little things right. He would have been our QB1 in the 2026 class had he declared. And so, he's proven, and he's going to go back to school to develop even further. So yeah, I echo a lot of the same sentiments that we just talked about with Sayin. But do you have anything to add with Dante Moore?
No, I absolutely agree. He's been getting it done, and if we get another season of that, consistency, I think he's going to be pretty high up in this draft class.
Absolutely. And then we get into an interesting group here. Some guys that were highly touted. I want to talk about them as a group of 3, so maybe we won't bring them up on the screen. But Dylan Raiola, DJ Lagway, and Arch Manning, all guys that were 5-star recruits, all guys that had incredibly high expectations, and guys that really just haven't lived up to those in one way or another, and to varying degrees. But I think, this is the 2027 class. They all have at least another year, unless they even want to go back for their senior seasons. These guys could improve. They could kind of reach those heights that we all hoped that they would at some point. But I think it's important to talk about the fact that these guys have disappointed. Who do you want to talk about specifically in this group first?
Let's talk about the weirdo first, man. Let's talk about the weirdo. We got Dylan Raiola. We're going to talk about him first because I feel like it's the weirdest conversation out of all 3 of these because, again, there's so many jokes. There's so many memes with Dylan Raiola. We all know he does the whole Patrick Mahomes thing. So I try not to dwell on that too much and just try to look at him as a player. And if you look at him as a player and you look at the profile through that lens, it's promising. It's got a lot of potential to it, and honestly didn't have a really bad start to it. I think coming in as a freshman, throwing almost 70%, it's not the worst that you would want to see out of a prospect. And then playing out of Nebraska as well, it's just he's just weird, man. If you look past that, it's not the worst prospect in the world, being honest with you.
No, far from it, really. Like, the reason that we're talking about him up here isn't just because of the pedigree, but also because we think he has the ability to improve. All 3 of these guys have had like a slump this year.
Yeah.
Dylan Raiola had a good freshman season. DJ Lagway, I thought, had a really impressive freshman season. Arch Manning showed signs. Yeah, in his limited sample size as well. And this year they've all disappointed to a certain degree. But Dylan Raiola, of the 3, has the worst situation by far in Nebraska. He's throwing to nobodies. Like, I don't know that I could name a Nebraska wide receiver for you compared to Florida and Texas, who are, a couple, especially Texas, like one of the best rosters in the entire country. So the fact that Dylan Raiola is still kind of keeping the ship afloat, even with what he's got around him, I think is pretty impressive in the Big Ten, which is a tough division to get it done in. So he's probably the guy that I would have next on this list. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So yeah, hopefully we'll see better from his junior season, and maybe even the rest of this season. But he's a guy definitely to keep your eye on. I want to bring up DJ Lagway. DJ Lagway. We talked about him a little bit before we hopped on. You get scared of the Florida comparisons. You get scared of Anthony Richardson, who just came out, because they're built in a similar way. You see he's listed at 6'3", 247. He's an absolute tank. Coming out of high school, we liked the rushing ability. We loved the big arm and the things that were kind of holding us back from anointing him as the best quarterback prospect is the inconsistency, is the lack of accuracy. And I thought in that freshman season, he actually put some of those doubts not to bed, but like he looked pretty good from an accuracy standpoint. It was quite good, I thought, for a freshman performance. But all of that has kind of gone out the window this sophomore year. He's got more interceptions than he does touchdowns. This Florida team has been floundering. I wonder if he ends up transferring and just gets kind of a new scenery, and hopefully maybe that helps him out. What are your thoughts?
It's definitely, like you said, it's been a roller coaster, very up and down, and mostly on the downside of things.
Yeah,
The only thing that he really has on Anthony Richardson where I'm not just completely tossed him to the wayside is just because he does have that pass performance as well. So he does at least have a history of, playing the position of quarterback at a high level.
yeah,
But it is scary. It's definitely spooky. We're hoping that next year, hopefully, we see at least a bounce back or sort of return to form. And maybe there's just a little bit of dysfunction this year, but definitely spooky for, him as a prospect.
yeah, 100%. And then I don't even know what to say about Arch Manning. There was speculation kind of early on that maybe he was dealing with an injury. I don't know that we've gotten any sort of confirmation on that or not. Um, Statistically, it's not terrible, right? Like he's performing a lot better production wise than Lagway is. But again, considering the situation that's around him and the expectations for this team coming into the season where people thought that they were the best team in the country, it's definitely not lived up to that level of hype. But what are your thoughts on Arch?
Arch Manning's a fake demon. I was so excited for Arch Manning this season, bro. But
Yeah,
it's like you said, he left a lot on the table, especially with how talented of a roster this is. There shouldn't have really been any question at this point. But now we have a possibility where, there's a Manning. We have no idea where he's going to get drafted right now because of how he's playing, and that's kind of otherworldly.
yeah,
So you'd imagine just with the infrastructure around him, the system will make it so Arch Manning will be fine by the time we're having this conversation again next year, is what you would hope. But based on what we've seen this year, I'm not optimistic. And I actually did forget about that weird shoulder injury situation that they were saying. Like, I
yeah.
do remember those, the footage of him not looking really comfortable throwing the ball. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Arch Manning. Like you said, it's a weird conversation because I want to be optimistic because he's a Manning, but I also don't want to let the name blind me from what's actually happening in front of me.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think I have too much to add. I think this is one that we just have to watch play out. And I am hopeful. Considering the pedigree, not just from the name, but also just the fact that he was the number one recruit, I believe, in the 2023 class, regardless of position. So hopefully he can return to that level of form next year. And then to round things out with the quarterback position, I just wanted to talk about some of the potential 2026 eligible quarterbacks that are either likely or potentially could not declare for the 2026 draft and return and be part of this 2027 class, one of which being Lenoris Sellers. He's another guy that's kind of disappointed compared to expectations, and there's been speculation that he could transfer as well, sort of in a similar mold to DJ Lagway, really. But he's another guy that is great on the ground. He could have that kind of fantasy upside if he can get things together as a passer. I think John Mateer and Sam Levitt have a possibility of also not declaring for this 2026 class. And this one less likely, but just kind of an outlier considering Dante Moore, a guy that was in the conversation for QB1 in 2026, decided to come back. I think Ty Simpson could potentially be in that boat as well. Less likely, but a possibility.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. We've seen stranger things happen with, quarterbacks in great positions. But at the same time, if we were to slot like a Lenoir Sellers into this group, because I assume we kind of listed things in order, would you just slot him into this group or would you put him somewhere towards the end of this group?
With everybody else that we listed for 2027.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I'd probably put him in that
somewhere
same
in the
range. Like,
mix.
yeah, like probably below Raiola, but like around DJ Lagway, maybe above Arch.
I say that's fair. That's about where I'd put him too.
I'm definitely putting him below Sayan and Dante Moore.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. If Ty Simpson ends up going back to school, I'd put him below Ty Simpson also. But that's a question for another day, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see when we get there.
Anybody else you want to add before we move on to the running back class?
Nah, nobody from the quarterback group.
All right. So let's go to running backs. And once again, I'll let you start us out. Who do you want to talk about first?
First guy, we're gonna start at the top of the pile. We've got Mr. Ahmad Hardy out of Missouri, Mizzou. I mean, guys, he ran for 300 yards last week. If you didn't think I was gonna list him first, you're crazy. But just him as a player, he's not the most prolific pass catcher, and he's not really like the most flashy, running back as a runner. But he's one of those guys that kind of consistently finds ways, just to get the job done. He's creative with the ball. He's still reliable with the ball. And just the fact that he is in the SEC and he's playing for a smaller school in the SEC and still finding success, it means he's able to produce for himself. And that's something that we really like to see in prospects. If you look back at our video for the 2026 class, a knock against Nick Singleton going into this year is that he's only really good in good situations. But the guys who are truly elite are the ones who are able to make things happen out of bad situations or at least unfavored situations, which Ahmad Hardy has done repeatedly throughout this season. He's just continued the ball out week in and week out.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um, like you said, him playing at Mizzou and having to go up against SEC competition at, probably one of the lesser schools in the SEC has been really impressive to watch. I get a little bit, just like a tiny bit nervous in terms of like helmet scouting with these Mizzou running backs because we've gotten
Hmm.
fooled. They're not necessarily fooled, but we've seen some really highly productive Mizzou running backs come out of here recently that just haven't translated to the NFL. I do think Ahmad Hardy is the best of that bunch, and so hopefully he can kind of separate himself. And he's drawn high praise from a lot of people, and not that I necessarily agree, but I think John Gruden was quoted as saying he's the best running back in the country above Jeremiah Love. I don't think that's the case, but
Yeah.
we're
They've been they've been a little bit back and forth, I guess, production-wise. I mean, I can't
yeah,
completely knock them, but at the same time, I don't completely agree with that comparison.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, he does currently lead all of college football in rushing, and he's the third highest PFF rushing grade, right behind Jeremiah Love.
right.
So really impressive prospect profile. But yeah, I think maybe pump the brakes on the crazy high expectations. But I like Ahmad Hardy a lot.
Absolutely. Who do you have
Um,
next on the list for running back prospects?
yeah, so maybe this is. Oh, am I typing? I'm typing in the wrong spot. Maybe this is a hot take, but I think Isaac Brown deserves just as much consideration for the RB1 spot in this class as Ahmad Hardy does. He doesn't have nearly the level of like counting stats production. But man, he is just a walking highlight reel, dude. Like I swear this guy has a turbo button attached to him. It's
Yeah.
it's ridiculous the gear that he can get to in not just when he's kind of being patient behind the line of scrimmage and then shoots through, but like even after he gets to the second and third level, like he just finds more speed to destroy angles past people in a way that you don't see very often. My comp for him is actually Devon Achan. Devon Achan did it in the SEC. He did it. He had more production throughout his career. So I'm not maybe Achan light, something like that. But in a very similar mold, wins in a lot of the same ways that Achan did. He's averaging 8.6 yards per attempt right now, 5.12 yards after contact per attempt this season. On only 90 attempts so far, he has 40 missed tackles forced and 19 runs of 10 or more yards. So he's just so explosive. I, One of the more fun running backs I've watched on tape in quite some time. So yeah, I'm a big Isaac Brown fan.
Absolutely. And somebody that I've, just based on what I've seen, someone who can get it done in the passing game, not someone who's like breaking down the doors. He's not getting like 30 catch. I think he's only got 11 so far in the season. But the times he does get the ball, like you said, he looks dangerous with the ball in his hands almost at all times. So I think it's one of those just the offense doesn't really throw the ball to running backs a lot. So it's one of those type of opportunities. But if he were to get the kind of volume at the next level, he's someone who could be dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. And similar to the conversations that we had with Devon Achan about being undersized, we're going to have those same conversations again when Isaac Brown does become draft eligible at 5'9", 190. We'll see if he puts on any weight. But this is basically exactly where Achan plays at, and we've seen how well that worked out. Obviously, there were the circumstances that he's ended up in have contributed to why he's so good. He is incredibly talented, but the fact that he ended up with Mike McDaniel, who's a great run game coordinator, and ended up in a situation where they've allowed him to be their lead back, which some coaching staffs just wouldn't do for a guy this size. So we need those situational factors to come together for Isaac Brown. But if they do, I truly think he can be special.
Absolutely.
All right. The rest of the running back class, at least in my opinion, isn't quite as inspiring, or at least not yet. There's plenty more time for kind of people to develop. I have some names to list off, but not that I want to talk about in depth. Do you have anybody that you really want to talk about?
The only person I really have is first team all name Fluff Bothwell.
Yeah, dude.
Just one of those guys. He's built like an absolute unit.
Yeah.
Also to go along with it, but the name is also just incredible. Also playing in the SEC, power back through and through with this guy, and he's a guy who you would not think that he'd be a zero. You think he'd be a zero in the pass game, and he's not a complete zero. He's got 11 catches on the season too, same as Isaac Brown, but he's also not someone I would think of as a receiving back. So I don't know if that would really continue at the next level. But even if it didn't, still think he's somebody who would command volume at the next level. And I wouldn't let his recent production really turn you off from him because I feel like he has been playing hurt. He had an weird ankle injury a few weeks back that I feel like he never really got time to recover from. He's been playing ever since. So weirder situation there, but I think with next season and a little bit of a bounce back, Fluff Bothwell will be somebody we're talking about a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have too much to add. Just want to highlight this here. Guys that get above a 90, above 90 in their PFF rushing grade tend to be quite good. He did that in his freshman season before he transferred over to Mississippi State. And like you said, he's kind of been dealing with some injuries here. But I'm a big fan of Bothwell as well. Some other guys that I just kind of wanted to throw into the mix. Caden Durham out of LSU. He had a fantastic freshman season. He's also been dealing with some injuries and stuff like that this sophomore year that have held him back, but I think he could be good. Jordan Marshall out of Michigan. He's behind Justice Haynes and sharing that backfield with a guy that's going to be highly drafted in the 2026 class. So he hasn't had like his kind of breakout moment necessarily, but I think he's quite good. And then Jaden Baugh in kind of a similar vein to what you talked about with Fluff Bothwell, just a huge behemoth of a guy that's going to make a lot of people miss, or not make people miss, but run through people at the running back position. So those are some guys I wanted to add. Anybody else you want to talk about?
No, I think we hit just about everything on the head. But again, guys, this is just the way too early list. So if you guys have other people that you want us to take a look at or you feel like we egregiously missed, make sure you sound off in the comments down below respectfully and let us know who we missed and who we could take another look at because, again, we're a year early on this. So we got plenty of time to research and now's the time to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I'm super excited. I'm glad that we finally got to put this video out there. This is something we've been waiting on. This 2027 class is just otherworldly, potentially generational, one of the best that we've seen in some time. So yeah, like Will said, if you guys have anything to add, if you agree, disagree, whatever it is, let us know down in the comments your thoughts on this 2027 group. Also hit that like button if you enjoyed. If you took anything away from this video, that would be highly appreciated. And hit subscribe. Let us know that you're going to come back to this channel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and hit that notification bell as well to make sure you're up to date with all of our latest releases. But I think that'll do it for us here today, and we'll catch you in our next video. Peace.
Peace.